This show contains profanity, advice you should never follow, humor that you might not enjoy. The names have been changed to protect the guilty. Do not try this at home.
Man, we had so much great stuff from episode 9 that kind of had to make a supplemental episode. So here's 9B, Old Man and Strop. We talk a little bit more about trail names, good ones, bad ones, how people can kind of just disappear on the trail and then reappear randomly. There's some snake talk, and I think we talk about farts. Yeah, farts. So enjoy. Yeah, I mean, I guess just staying away from... And it's tough to know what a cliche is till you get out there. So I guess if you're scared of having a cliche name, maybe hold off. But, I mean, you'll get one.
Sure.
Yeah.
You'll definitely get one, and it'll be awesome.
I know ones to avoid.
What?
Putting the word just in front of your real name. Like, I'm just Chris.
Yeah.
There are a few of those. Like, I'm just Dave.
I had a friend on the trail whose trail name was Blink because I don't know if he's even still there, but at mountain crossings at the hostel in mountain crossings, Pirate pretty much was just a fixture there, and Pirate's like Marine sniper, like Green Beret something, and he runs the hostel, or at least he did in 2009. But first thing in the morning, he told everybody, like, lights come on at 7, you're out by, 7:15 or something like that. We'll have breakfast, but everybody needs to be up and, their bed made and this, that, and the other. And if you were still in bed, he put a disposable camera right in your face, but he took a picture of everybody in the hostel. So the more awake you were, the better your picture was. But he would stick the camera right in your face, click it, the flash would go off, and then he would just say, trail name, and he would write it down, and then based on the way that the film printed out, he would tack it up on a board that had your year on it, and underneath it would say whatever your name was.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a friend that he stuck the camera right in his face, clicked it, and said, what's your trail name? And he said, oh, I blinked. And he goes, blink, and just wrote it down. And I was like, I guess I'll just keep that. I'm trying to think of other names.
I just came across one here. 2 of them. 2 cool people we hiked with. The first one, and this kind of falls into the nature category, but kind of not.
Mm-hmm.
Her name, and this is the best part, it was a woman. Her name was Roy G. Biv.
Oh.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, Roy G. Biv. And her boyfriend at the time, his name was Shoulda Known. So everybody just called him Shoulda. But but the best part was he'd do something and like it wouldn't work out, and he's like, oh, and she would just be like, shoulda known. And you're like, yep. I remember one time we got into a water pumping contest. Like, we were so bored going through New York. It was hot. It hadn't rained in forever.
A water pumping contest, eh?
Yeah. That's like, yeah. So
big fun.
We came up to a puddle. Like, it was the water we saw that day. It was this puddle about the size of this coffee table, and maybe about 1.5 inches deep. And we were like, we pull out all of our water filters out, and we all have different ones. And it's like, well, man, dude,
let's do some product testing.
I had the Thru-Hiker. And everybody's like, oh, this is one of my favorite things. There was only a small amount of gear talk. I always liked when people said, oh, it's not field cleanable. I'm like, that means I don't have to clean it in the field. You have to clean yours. I don't. Fucking 2 filters all the way through. Boom. But, so I get it out, and we're like, and of course they have like, I don't know if they have a Mini Works or what they had, something like that, but like, boom, gunks up. Oh, gotta get it out. Get out my little green scrubby and clean this fucker off. And I'm just like, and I was like, let me see your Nalgene. Just pumped it all up, and like, he's like, oh shit, he's got this big gunky mess everywhere because the water is black.
Yeah.
And not that there's anything wrong with that. And I like, by the time he hasn't even finished cleaning his, and I hand back. I think maybe I handed her. I think I handed Roy back hers, and she looked at him and she was like, "Should have known."
I was hiking and had been reading in the journals that there was a girl ahead of me named Blondie. And Blondie kept like writing cute stuff in the journals and this, that, and the other. And then one day I get into the shelter and I like settle in. I think it was in Maine. It was one of the like baseball bat shelter floors where it's just like shitty. And you're like, fucking, who thought of this? Mm-hmm. And these, 3 kids my age, maybe a little bit older, come bounding into the area, and they are just fucking fun. Like, they are just 3 people just having a good time. And I realize that there's 2 guys and a girl. The girl's name is Hungry. And one of the guys introduces himself, and he is like, "My name soars like an eagle, not like the disease." I'm just like, dude, how did you get that name? He's like, "It's actually my last name." I'm like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. And then the third guy is this like, you figure you've been on trail for like 5 months. You have something of a tan, right? You've been outside for 5 months straight. And it's this like pasty pale kid with blonde curly hair. And he says, "I'm Blondie." And I thought, motherfucker, I have been reading your journal entries for like a week and imagining you as a girl. It's nice to meet you, Blondie. And these 3 kids were like, they were so much fun. I had a great time. I only spent like 36 hours with them. Yeah. And I had a ball with them. They were like, I had as much fun with them as I did with anybody else. Seriously?
Yeah, didn't meet her till the 100-mile wilderness, and her boyfriend started hiking with her in the 100-mile wilderness. Like, he wanted to hike the wilderness with her, and it's like, you're in your peak, like, you know how to hike, and you have one thing on your mind, and that's just fucking finishing. And this dude comes out, and like, she went from doing 18-mile days to 8.
Yeah.
And so like
all
of her friends left her.
Oh.
It's like they couldn't sit around and wait because her boyfriend came out.
Right.
And it's crazy is this guy who didn't like us, he was a old guy. He was fixed in his ways. He didn't like us because we were young. We passed him, and like 10 minutes later, he broke his femur. Like, he laid there for like a day. Like, till somebody else met him the next day. Like, he was just laying in the trail. Like, he got his stuff out, but he's like, he couldn't move. And we had just passed him. And he's like, found out later on he had been yelling for everybody because like, her boyfriend were ahead of us. And then we had passed him. He's like, "Oh, 5 miles ahead." I'm like, we don't even know who the hell that is. I just remembered it. So one of my favorites was a guy named Ivan Odor. Ivanodor. I have an odor, but it was Ivan Odor. I don't know. Like, it's true. He stunk. Let's see here.
I met a guy who, when I first met him, his trail name was Coley, which apparently had been his name while he was like in the Peace Corps.
Coley?
Coley.
Okay.
I think it was like Koli. I met him later and noticed, like a month later, and noticed that everybody was calling him Sparky. And I was like, "What's with the Sparky? I thought your name was Coley." And he was like, "Oh, I got struck by lightning on Roan." I was like, "Oh, wow. Well, that'll do it."
Yeah.
All right.
Shit changes.
Yep.
God.
But I've heard stories of people like having names that it's assumed that it's a gender.
Yeah. And
then you meet them in real life and you're like, oh, shit. Like, I remember reading somewhere about a guy whose trail name was Valley Girl. And like people, like creeper guys, like following Valley Girl, like trying to meet Valley Girl and like this, that, and the other. finally meeting him in real life and being like, oh,
it's a dude.
you're a big burly dude like every other guy on this trip.
Well, that's the funny thing. Like, mine wasn't gender related, but it was size related. Mm-hmm. There was a guy, and I think I talked about him before. His name was Moby Dick. And he did like just amazing journal entries. And I talked about he did 3-panel cartoons. They were always a cartoon done like so fucking well. And you're like, Moby Dick, man, like I bet this is a big dude. Like you know, he looked like Moby, the DJ guy. Like he looked like Moby. Like he was tiny,
little bald,
glasses, and he had a full canister of top cigarettes, like top cigarette tobacco and papers. And like I met him the day before Roy and Shoulda and I had the water pumping contest in New York. So I mean, like, but I've been reading his shit like from Virginia on. Sure. And, you know, disappear for a while, you know, the old flip flop, not know where the person is, or see him and not know who they are, kind of thing. And we sat down and talked shit and rolled cigarettes with this guy for like all night. Never saw him again. Never saw the dude again.
Isn't it crazy how that happens?
It is. And you're like, you know, and I think he finished.
At some point you wake up one morning and you're just like, did I imagine all of that?
Yeah. You're like, Jesus Christ.
That's how I felt about Soares and Blondie and Hungry. I was like, where have these guys been all my life? Like, we had so much fun in a day and a half.
Yeah. Gone.
You're
like, where the fuck are they?
Never.
There.
Yeah.
I remember when I got to Lake of the Clouds, I had Giardia. I was sick as a dog. Yeah. But got there, and there was this one guy. There's people that work in the huts there, just kind of hanging out. Walk in, and this one guy's like, "Pox?" I'm like, yeah. And he's like, Israel. And that was this guy's name. And it was like, hey. I hung out with him in the Smokies. He had hiked all the way to Katahdin, took 2 weeks off at Acadia National Park while he was up there, and had been working at Lake of the Clouds for I don't know how long. And like, here I am, just getting to Lake of the Clouds, and it's like, where's the bathroom? You know, it's like
you don't even know.
Oh, here's another name. Squirrel. There's gonna be a few squirrels out there. But this girl Squirrel, met her at the place. Really cool. She came to Barf's birthday where the lady popped the balloon. Hung out with her. I think I saw her again. No, we all split a room at Rural Retreat on the side of I-81 there. And the next time I saw her was about 3/4 of the way up Katahdin.
You're fucking nuts.
Yeah, just like she had been 4 days. She had been hiking with this guy Israel forever, but then he took off and was just super fast. But yeah,
I had the same thing happen. Blue Mountain Shelter, which I think is like right after the North Carolina-Georgia border.
Okay,
I believe was the most miserable night that I spent on the trail. Blue Mountain Shelter is on top of Blue Mountain,
and
it faces into the wind, and it was just fucking miserable. It was I think it was the only morning that I woke up at like 4:45 and was just like, packing up my shit and leaving. Yeah. I'm gonna freeze my nards off up here. I walked into the Lakeshore House in Maine, in Monson, right before starting the 100-mile wilderness, and I walked into the bar, and sitting at the bar is this kid, and he says my name. And I'm like, hey. And he was just like, we spent the night together at Blue Mountain Shelter. And I was like, holy shit. And he said, was that your worst night on the trail too? And I said, yeah, it definitely was. It was a kid named Bearded Ninja. And, but yeah, that was totally all I saw of him. I think I saw him a couple of times before Blue Mountain Shelter. I saw him at Blue Mountain Shelter. I may have seen him like once at Trail Days, and I didn't see him again until Monson. If I feel a big fart going on, I usually warn people and I say, I'm gonna fart, and they say, okay, and then I'm like, and I can't not laugh like a small child, but I usually give
I like your warning.
Yeah.
I'm gonna fart.
I'm gonna fart. And I always say it with this, like, trepidatious, like, oh, I hope you say okay.
I don't know why it got me, but it did.
It does, every time.
God.
I'm gonna fart. All right. So, okay.
In addition to talking about jacking off my wife on the way home, I'm just going to tell you a couple of little things. So, on the way back, we were driving through Climax, North Carolina.
Fuck yeah.
Climax, North Carolina.
Yep.
Car.
It is imperative every time I drive through Climax that I have to send text messages with pictures to everybody I possibly can of the exit saying, I'm approaching Climax.
Mm-hmm. Climax, Julian. Climax. That's the name of the city, is Climax and Julian. And it's like, Climax, Julian. But yeah, so like I'm driving through Climax, and first off, I spent the last 5 days in the mountains of North Carolina, about 2,200 feet above where we are right now at our place, and we got like 30, 40 minutes of sleet, like not much at all. So coming back east, snow everywhere, shit everywhere, from like Winston-Salem all the way back here. Like I have ice on the stairs outside. And so here we are driving along. It's dry, on the road, nothing going on at all. This happened, like the snow happened 3 days ago or so. Cars everywhere on the side of the road. One was like
in a tree.
It had gone through about 8 trees on its way down this hill. I'm like, holy shit, what the hell happened here? And so we saw cars everywhere on our way back. And so then we're about 5 miles away from the house here and see this car on the side of the road. I'd become numb to seeing these cars. And we're like, oh, there's a person outside of that one. And there was a lady standing at the back of the car.
Hey, lady.
Facing traffic. Puking her guts out. And we're like, why are you facing traffic?
Yeah.
I mean, just like, bah, ah. And we drove by like, does she need help? But I mean,
is she going to be okay?
There was something in the driver's seat, but we're just like, well, welcome back.
Want to go to Wendy's?
But yeah, so that was a little bit of my drive home. It had nothing to do with anything. Here's a question that came up.
Mm-hmm.
Did you name any of your gear?
I don't think I did. I'm trying to think. No, I don't think I did. Oh, I had a gnome with me.
Oh, okay.
And I don't even think he had a name, but I had a little 3.5 ounce gnome. I wrote it on the bottom. It was like a little paperweight. He was way too heavy for his size. That I kept in the bag that I kept my
Diva cup.
Tarp. Yeah, not my Diva cup, the tarp. And whenever I set my tarp up and slept alone, I set the gnome up like next to my head. And I don't know why, but I did it every time.
Hey.
And he did the whole trail, and I took pictures along the way of the roaming gnome.
Nice.
Wherever we were. I think that was my only like mascot-y kind of thing, but I don't think I ever had anything named. Did you name anything?
I did. I named 2 things.
What did you name?
Here comes the old man Pox.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so in '98, people were really just then using trekking poles. Like, I remember seeing someone there were these 2 guys. They were brothers. You know what they went by?
Tell me.
The Brothers.
Oh, good one.
They were twins. And
They're the twin brothers.
Yeah. I don't know if they're twins, but they look just alike, whatever. And
Double Trouble.
Yeah. I think I remember one of them being a little bit nicer, but I remember they were like, I mean,
why is it that sisters that hike together are always the nicest, sweetest girls in the whole world, and brothers that hike together are always jackasses?
Huh. I don't know.
I met a couple of sets of sisters, and they were just the nicest girls
Really?
ever.
I don't think I was ever around any sisters.
Okay. Well.
But so these guys were like some of the first people I saw.
Right.
And honestly, I want to say that they were using trekking. Like when I saw them or met them, it was around Dragon's Tooth. So I mean, I'd gone all that distance and really hadn't seen many people using trekking poles. Mm-hmm. But on my second day, I picked up, like literally leaning against a tree was like somebody had cut like a really nice stick, like a walking stick, and just like, fuck it, and like left it lying on the. You know, like, it wasn't like it was right by a road crossing, like, I'm done here, I'm going to go to my car. It was like 3-4 miles into your second day, and it was like, yep, there's a stick leaning against the thing. I was like,
it's one of those things where somebody got 2 miles down the trail and then went, son of a bitch, I left my stick up against that tree.
Yeah. And that's actually, I think, Jesus, I think that's how it started. It was like, well, I'm just going to walk this thing, and I'm going to see how it goes. And I walked with one walking stick for like, I don't know, like 200 miles. Like this is this same walking stick. And is it okay over there? Is it stinking?
It doesn't stink. I'm just laughing.
It's your own brand.
Farts are funny.
But so I'm walking with this one walking stick, and it was like, I kind of feel like I need something on the other side. And so I think I just found another. I think I just was like walking around looking for another stick.
It's like a stick.
Yeah, it's like a stick. And so I just I walked from Georgia to Maine with 2 walking sticks.
Revolutionary.
Oh, no, I'm not saying I started anything at all. It was just like, I'm going to use these 2 sticks. Dude, they went the whole way.
You still have them?
Yeah, I do.
Nice.
And so one of my little drawings I came across, I had forgotten completely about the fact that I had named these 2 sticks. And one of them was like... really gnarly looking wood, and it was just like it looked like it was curved in the back. It was like it was about probably 10 inches taller than the other one. So like,
I'm really curious what your walking sticks names were now.
Okay, well, the one with the kind of arched over back,
Gandalf. Gandalf.
No, go close. It's a old man.
Okay.
Old man. And then
the other one,
somehow like a piece of string had gotten put on it somehow. Like I tied a piece of string to... No.
Stringling?
Strop. 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 Old Man and Strop.
That is totally trail crazies at work right there is what that is.
There's the picture of Strop and a rattlesnake.
Did you touch a rattlesnake with Strop?
Mm-hmm. Coming down somewhere in New York. Coming down in New York, there was this. I just remember this long slab of rock. Actually, we talked about this long slab of rock with Prof. It was the picture that he was in, a little teeny tiny picture in the first coffee table book. Mm-hmm. So there's this huge, long, just like you're just going down, like long, just exposed rock somewhere. And, you run across black snakes all the time, just random snakes. And so Barf was probably about 100 feet ahead of me or something like that, going down this thing. And I noticed that he stopped. It was probably a little bit further than that. I noticed that he stopped, and then like I saw him do something with his trekking pole. He had a wooden stick in his hand. I saw him do something, and then I saw him basically go like 4 feet in the air up and like 6 feet back at the same time, like whoop, like all one motion, like boom. And I'm walking along, and I'm like, whatever. And he turns around, and he's like, come on. And I'm like, what the fuck? And he's like, look at that. I look down, and I'm like, yeah, it's a black snake. And he's like, no. And then like he just like, he doesn't hit the snake. He just hits the ground like probably 8 feet away from this snake. And he just like, bap, makes a little noise. The rattle start. It was just like a jet black rattlesnake.
Yeah.
And I guess I found out later, the further
black phase.
Yeah, well, the further north you go, the darker they are because they need more. But so it was just like, That was the first rattlesnake I ever saw in my life. And it was just like, oh my, actually, excuse me, second one. But I was just like, oh my God. It's the first time I ever heard one sing. And so I was like, holy shit. And so like the trail came down and like narrowed to like 8 inches wide. And like the rattlesnake is like, it hadn't warmed up quite yet for its day. It was still kind of early. And so it was like starting to go off the trail. We're like, all right, sweet, it's going. Then it's like, no, I'm going to hang out right here. And it's like, oh, fuck. Yeah, so like, you know, so it was just kind of like, just go, man, just go. Because like you literally had to jump like up. It was like the trail narrowed down and then hung like a 90-degree turn to the left. So you're just like, fuck. Like you basically had to like pole vault over this rattlesnake and just like, and so to make things worse, I'm like, oh man, this is going to suck. This is going to suck. So like Barf is the first one to do the jump and like pole vault to the left around this thing. And he lands and it kind of makes a little motion like it noticed where he went. And then as he's walking away, he just takes his hiking stick and is like, whap, whap, hits the ground one more time. I'm like, you motherfucker, it's right there. It's pissed off now. And so, yeah, so I just kind of like, I'm above it by like 4 feet. So I've got like, you know, the old man, the longer one, like, go on, go on, go on, go on. And, you know, whatever, just kind of pushing at it. It's a long story.
Oh, God.
So, yeah, Old Man and Strop.
I had a buddy who, when he was on trail somewhere in Pennsylvania, he's rocky as fuck. He's hiking along, and he steps on a rock, and it's like kind of one of those like balancing act scree climbs. And he steps on a rock, and he goes to take a forward step, and right in front of him, he hears, and he's like, oh shit. And so he goes to take a backward step, and from behind him, he hears, he's like, God. Oh shit. And he looks around and pretty much every direction. And he was like, I don't know if it was just the way that the noise was echoing off the rocks or what, but no matter where I tried to step, there was a rattle noise. And he kind of like stood there for a while and very carefully picked his way out and gets himself back on trail. And he's walking along, and like all of a sudden there's like a gigantic rattlesnake in the middle of the trail, and he realizes it's a stick. And he's like, oh, okay, it's fine. He walks on a little bit further, and there's another gigantic rattlesnake, and it's just a rock that looks like a coiled up rattlesnake. And I just thought this was one of the most endearing things I had heard the whole time on the trail, because he said it was like a half a mile to the nearest shelter, and it was like 11:15 in the morning, and he was just like, fuck it, every stick is a snake, my nerves are shot, I'm done for the day, I'm going to a shelter where I'm gonna rock myself to sleep and start again tomorrow. Like, that's all I can do. Can't do it. And you know, it totally happens. Where you're just like, you know, all it takes is one black snake to look at you the wrong way, and for the rest of the day it's mighty fancy stepping the entire day. It's exhausting.
I'm never have been like, now I was never a big fan of snakes. I mean, and didn't have snakes growing up. Grew up in the middle of nowhere in the woods, and I still wasn't a big fan of snakes. Now, I have since had a job where handling snakes was part of my job. Kind of makes you get over your fear quickly with that. But I remember one time sitting at a shelter and somewhere in Southern Virginia, Central Virginia, and like sitting on the edge of the shelter, reading a journal, and just kind of flipping through and seeing who was there last, you know, and then kind of going back through. And a couple of pages in, it's like, attention. There is always a copperhead in the rafters of the, and this was just like lunch. And it was like, there's always there's always a copperhead in the rafters. And it was like, I'm not shitting you. I looked up and there was a copperhead like looking down at me from the rafters. And I was like, done. And
I didn't think they could climb.
It was in there. I mean, it was in there. I don't know.
I remember there being talk of copperheads around and in a shelter in Virginia. It was near Hexacuba, but I didn't think they could climb.
I
had always sort of soothed myself by saying It's cool.
Yeah.
I can't climb.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it was definitely a copperhead looking down at me.
Ugh.
It was that head. I mean, there's
there's no mistaking
those
it.
disgusting heads. I mean, it was probably about 3 feet above me, but I was just like,
Still
done.
That's too close.
And I just sat there and wrote it down like.
Did you take a picture?
No, I didn't. No, it was like
Yeah.
I literally walked out with the pen and the paper,
Yeah.
and I just like, this is a note that people need to see now, So, but it was just like okie dokie, and just set that like right there on the thing, like look up.
No.
All right, so that's it for this week. Puss and I will be recording another episode in a couple of days. Keep on giving us a call at 828-394-4526. Follow us on Twitter at Pox and Puss. Same thing for Instagram at Pox and Puss. Stay in touch, and we'll talk to you next week.
Fucking shitting in a aluminum can, basically.